Gary Whitus. Okay. Rosie, did you want to speak at the other one or this one? Neither. Neither? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Jay Pexa, maybe? The other one. Okay, thank you. Austin, the other one too? We should have put better. Ethan? Max? Neither? Okay. And Brian and Joel, I think you wanted the next one, right? Okay. Anyone else want to talk, or anyone online that wanted to talk on the public forum section of this meeting? Okay, the next item is public hearing, item number 5 on the agenda. I'd like to take a motion to open the public hearing on the CIP plan and the issuance of the general obligation bonds relevant to Resolution 25-060202, approving a capital improvement plan and giving preliminary approval to the issuance of capital improvement plan bonds, and Resolution number 25-060203, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation capital improvement bonds, Series 2025A, in the maximum aggregate amount of $10,415,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Is there any questions or comments or discussion?
Yes, I would like to provide some comments because I know that many of you are here because of the issuing of the bonds for the new police station. I just wanted to let everyone know that we as a council did not take the decision for the new police station lightly. As a matter of fact, we conducted a facility study in 2022 with the final issuance of the outcome of that study in November of 2023. So this has been going on for a number of years. So I wanted to read from the facility study specifically about the police station. The current space is inadequate for current staffing. There's no place to add additional officers. The lobby is lacking in privacy and security. We need to have interview rooms in this area. Space that was used as garage space has been converted to offices. Investigators are in an open space with no privacy. There's no space for evidence processing. The garage is used. This does not meet current best practices for police facilities. Evidence storage is adequate but could be improved. Inadequate garage space for vehicles. Many have to park outside in the elements. Lack of larger meeting space for training and outside organizational meetings. Lacks space for tactical equipment and training. Needs space for dogs until animal control can pick up. Also, men and women have to share a locker room. There is only one bathroom within the police office space. There is no place for duty bags. We have now 2 detectives, and there's only office space for the 1 detective, which is probably about a 6x6 room with no windows. We have, as stated, we have no way to expand to add additional officers, which we know as a city we're going to grow, and we're going to need additional officers. The final comment that was made in the facility study is the existing police facility is beyond its useful life and should be replaced in lieu of additions and renovations. So this is a study by a third party, working with structural engineers and other experts in the area. So it was not something that the city conducted on their own. So I just wanted to provide this information as education to let everyone know that this decision was not made overnight. We worked on it for a number of years. A firm that went through the whole design phase, et cetera, provided many presentations on the proposed facility. All of this information was public and is public, and so we're not hiding anything from the public. Our meeting minutes are published in the newspaper. They're available online. Any request for public documents can be made. So we're not just pushing something through. And I just want to let everyone know that, we're very conscientious about the cost, which is only going to increase in the future. And felt that at this time it was good to move forward with it based on the fact that the estimated budget for the new police station was higher than the bids that came in. So we are in a position to spend about 2 to 3 million less because of the bids that came in. So just wanted to pass that information on in case that affects any comments that we hear tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion regarding the motion?
Yes, I do. Yes, we did talk about a facility study, and there was a lot of ideas kicked around. We talked about facilities, that the fact that even this building is antiquated and that we needed, there was talk at one time that we were gonna include a police station with a new government center as well. I believe that while it is not ideal, we did make some upgrades for evidence. As far as the privacy issue, I always found that to be a little odd in the sense that for only 8 hours a day, there's 2 record technicians that don't sit in that office, they sit up front. There is a chief and a detective, each whom has an office, and then 2 patrol officers on during the day. That's for 8 hours. The other 16, there's 2 police officers that are on duty. Now granted, for a short period of time, there could be changeover in shifts and everything else, but for the most part, and even those 2 police officers should be out patrolling, or if one might have to come in to do paperwork. Even if they're both in at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's a whole lot. The whole idea was, yes, we do know as this city grows and we add more police officers that eventually we will need this, but we have not added police officers since we did that study. We're still at 12 people in the department. And as we've seen, the growth in the city has drastically slowed down from where it once was. So again, it's mine and a lot of other people's that to spend $10.5 million at this point is more of a want than necessarily a need. It's not ideal. I'll just use an example. In my office the other day, I took a personal phone call. I had to step out of the room and went outside into the parking lot and used my phone. I mean, that's just, a lot of people have to do that. I don't think that puts any undue extra burden on anybody if they have to go to their car to make a personal phone call or want to step out into the parking lot. For $10 million, I don't need another office to go into and close the door. Anyways, that's just my feeling. I think a lot of people feel that same way too, that eventually we will need it. As of right now, to build to the excess that we did, we asked them a couple of times, everybody on this board, is there a way we could skinny it down? They never skinnied it down. It stayed at $12 million. Yes, the bids came in a little under that as of right now, but if I remember right, we wanted to see if we could get it for $6 million or $7 million, and everybody was comparing it to new facilities that Montgomery had put up for a third of that. And then I heard from people that looked at the plans and put bids in to the general contractor for electrical, and there was top of the line everything. And he said, you wouldn't believe, he said I could save a third of it right there. I asked him how much that would be approximately out of, let's just say 10 million, so we could do the math easy. He thought electrical's probably 10% of that overall budget. If he could have saved, which would be $1 million, if he could have saved a third, that would be $300,000 just by doing something a little bit more, what's the right word I'm looking for, just a little bit, not top of the line, but, and then you just extrapolate that out when you do plumbing, when you do the stone work, when you do the parking lot. If those type of savings can come in too, just like one little part of the electrical, the HVAC, everything else, you're looking at where we could have got it into that maybe $6 or $7 million range and had a decent new facility that we could grow, once the city grows, that we could expand on or build out. But the architect firm was never interested in really coming back to us with a new proposal or a skinny down proposal. So I think that's where a lot of people got upset, but that's my point.
I guess what I got to say about it is, it's needed. You go downstairs, it looks like Barney Fife is gonna come out and help you, it's, what, 1920? Everything that you said in that letter about us not taking the appropriate time to study it and do our investigation on it, I don't know, Sean, so far, I just wanna say, we need the police department. And it's time that we get it going on it. We have been working on it for 2.5 years.
I'm just going to ask for a point of order here and make sure that we stay on topic. This is a motion for the hearing. Any other comments or discussion directly about the hearing?
Right, Joe.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You don't want the public hearing?
Are we, oh, that's for public hearing, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I wanted to make a comment on Rick's, but since the point of order was made, I refrained from that, but I wanted to speak on that.
Public hearing is now open. First of all, I want to apologize for Mr. Paulson and Mr. Wallen, who came to the last scheduled hearing that we scheduled but didn't actually do. So I apologize if you intended to speak on the issue at that time and didn't get the opportunity to do it, so sorry. I'm first going to call up Rebecca Kurtz from Eilers to go over the presentation again from the last and update us on that, and then I'll invite people that are interested to speak at the hearing. Becky?
Good evening, Rebecca Kurtz from Ellers. There are two documents related to what I'm going to talk about this evening. The first one is the capital improvement plan. It is very similar to what was presented back in March. I want to note, though, that I did make a couple updates to that. First of all, I reduced the maximum amount to tie with the bids and where the project actually is. The second piece of that is I did update the numbers to reflect the pay 25 values. When we were here in March, the county had not finalized pay 25 values. So the report that you have today does include the tax rates for pay 25 instead of 24. Other than that, most of the report here then has not changed. Again, under Minnesota law, there are minimal ways that you can issue debt for buildings, public buildings such as police stations, fire stations, city halls. Issuing through a capital improvement plan bond is one way to do a general obligation bond with that. And so the CIP document or capital improvement plan document that you have before you this evening outlines the statutory requirements for that. It talks about some of the specifics. It is a 5-year plan. However, I do want to note that only the police station and only the project in 2025 is identified in the plan. There are no future projects identified with the use of capital improvement plan bonds. I also want to just call out a couple of the numbers that were updated when we had 25 market value and tax rate information. With a capital improvement plan bond, the total amount, one of the requirements is the total amount of outstanding debt cannot exceed your debt limit as set by Minnesota statute. For the city of New Prague, that total debt limit number is 33 million, about $33.4 million, just under that. As of May 28th, when this report was updated, the city had $1,939,000 subject to that statutory debt limit. And so if you add, and I rounded to allow a little cushion, if you add an additional 11 million, then there still is approximately 20.46 million that would be available with your statutory debt limit. So I share that just to put in context that you are not maxing out your debt limit with this project. The second piece of this that was updated is the CIP Act or legislation also requires that the total amount of principal and interest payable in any single calendar year on a capital improvement bond cannot exceed 0.16% of the city's total estimated market value. And so again, using updated market values and tax rates, the maximum debt service that you would be allowed for a capital improvement plan bond is 1.78 million. And again, there is a preliminary debt schedule in the back of the capital improvement plan, and it is about 660,000 is the estimated debt service. So again,
That's annual, correct?
annual, yes, annual debt service. So again, well within that annual maximum of 1.78. We are estimating that debt service would be right around 660 annually. Along with that, and I'm happy to answer questions on either one of these, but the second document that you have is a pre-sale report that if you choose to move forward this evening, it would call for the sale of bonds. And with that, again, it has been updated to reflect the 10,415,000 general obligation bonds. It is structured, as we saw the last one, the amount is slightly less because with timing, there would not be an interest payment due. The first interest payment has been pushed out. So that slightly reduced the number that we had looked at before. Although this structure still does reflect using 380,000 in cash to reduce a portion of the bond issuance that is reflected in here. As we've talked about before, if you do go forward with issuing a general obligation capital improvement plan bond, it does count against that net debt limit. Those were the numbers that I outlined, that you would still have over $20 million available. We are proposing a 30-year term for this debt. With that, principal would be in 2027. We would look at bonds maturing in 2055. However, the bonds would be subject to, they would be callable in 2035, which means that at that point in time, if you had money, you could pay them off in full or in part, or if interest rates had dropped and there was some interest savings with refunding the bonds at a lower interest rate, you would have the ability to do that for some additional savings. We did go through a rating process tied with the street bonds that were issued and awarded previously. The city's current bond rating is a AA from Standard & Poor's. With that, and I'm happy again to go into more detail in the pre-sale report if you do have questions, but if you do decide to move forward this evening, there is a 30-day reverse referendum period. So we are looking, or I am proposing, to have a bond sale on July 21st. I recognize that is about your meeting right after the 30-day reverse referendum period would be July 7th. With that meeting coming right off a long weekend and the July 4th holiday, we do have a little question about the bond interest just after a long weekend. So if you wanted, we could sell on July 7th. We are recommending to consider July 21st just because that would put it in time where underwriters would not be coming off a long holiday weekend and possibly have a little more interest in them because there would be a little more time to review. But I'm happy to answer more questions related to that. After the hearing, there are two resolutions. The first one that you can consider does approve that capital improvement plan bond or capital improvement plan and allow for the issuance of debt. And then if you choose to do so, the second resolution would actually call for the specific issuance of the bonds and start that process. I'm happy to answer questions right now, where I will be around for the hearing if there are questions that come up at a later time.
Thank you. Any questions of Eilers? Josh or anyone? Thank you. All right, this is the the public hearing portion. I just want to mention that this is your opportunity. Anyone can express their opinions. I have two lists here, but even if you're not on the list, you're certainly free to come and speak, to give you the opportunity to speak. Council, as I mentioned, does not deliberate, so if you ask questions, don't expect an answer. We're here to hear or listen to what you have to say, and go from there. I have two lists, and Brian, you're the first one on this one list. Do you want to go first, or?
Sure, that's okay.
Otherwise, I can take somebody off this list.
I do like to go last, but Brian Paulson, 206 4th Street Southwest. Council members, just a quick couple of things before I start. I do believe that that report was done by Wald, that Councilmember Bass referenced, who makes more money the more money that we spend, I believe. And then the cost increase in the future, it's the reason that in the past it would have been cheaper because our incomes are cheaper, and in the future it'll be more expensive just like our incomes are more expensive, or we get paid more. So yes, that is true, but all things are relative. Let's see here. Good evening, council members. I'm here to specifically respectfully oppose the bond resolution for the around $11 million police station project and urge you to delay or reject it until residents have had a meaningful say. Your stance that the project is proceeding regardless makes it feel like a formality. Residents deserve better. You frame this hearing as a chance to choose funding mechanisms like SIP bond financing, unlike other public hearings for rezoning or backyard chickens that we just had, which seek public opinion, and those are from some city staff directly. I disagree with that stance. Minnesota Statute 475-521, subsection 3 requires public hearings for capital improvement bonds to gather input on the project's need, size, and scope, not just the funding mechanism. The League of Minnesota Cities Handbook for Minnesota Cities, Chapter 7, notes that hearings allow residents to, quote, express support or opposition, unquote, and provide, quote, additional information, unquote. This isn't about selecting a payment method. It's about our community's future, whether the scope or timeline fits our needs. You haven't sought resident input through the city's newsletter or social media, unlike the widely shared park survey that just went out. Or the school district, for example, was the same contractor, Wold, did, I believe, 5 planning sessions with residents. I think they had 30 people that wanted to join. All 30 were allowed to join these 5 sessions where they toured the facilities and came up with priorities. Instead, you signed a contract without a funding contingency after violating the statute, skipping the required hearing, and then you didn't pause the builder after that. The builder then erected fencing, moved in a trailer, and placed a dumpster, risking higher exit costs before residents could even speak. This undermines transparency. You and city staff point to past meetings claiming years of discussion, but when were residents invited to discuss the need or scope? I propose you delay the resolution to hold community planning sessions like the schools, tie contracts to resident-approved funding. It's also concerning that you extended the bond term to 30 years from 25, adding around $2 million in interest for a mere around $10 a month savings, burdening future residents that fit in that 5-year gap that happen to move here during that time. I urge you to delay this or reject this resolution, utilize the exit clause in the contract, and if this is approved, I am informing you that I am coordinating volunteers to gather signatures needed for a petition to force a public vote, ensuring that our voices are heard. Let's make New Prague's future reflect a shared vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mullen, would you like to go next?
My name is Joel Wallen, 716 Main Street, East in New Prague. I didn't prepare any remarks today, so I'm going to be pretty brief. Councilman Ryan, I believe the word that you were looking for is austere, which is the root of the word austerity. The rest of this country is going through a period of austerity. I know I'm experiencing austerity in my own budget. Our federal government is supposed to be, as promised, in instituting austerity measures. As of last week, it didn't seem like they were actually doing what they promised, but I would urge all of you to understand that I don't believe that spending $11 million on the Taj Mahal of police stations is austerity in any measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Miles Pavic, did you want to speak now? No? Gary Whitus, would you like to?
Good evening, Gary Whitus, 1406 9th Street Southeastern, New Prague. I want to speak a little bit about what it says right on that wall there, a tradition of progress. Many years ago, the city of New Prague built a sewage treatment plant that was state-of-the-art. 20 years later, it's still state-of-the-art. You didn't look to get the cheap way out. You looked to do it for the future, and it worked. Many years ago, the city built a new fire hall. And they didn't build a pole barn. It isn't just a place to store trucks. It's something to be proud of. And I would be willing to bet that our chief has no problem recruiting firefighters because they have something they can be proud of, and they do a great job protecting our town. We have a golf course. My question is, when was the last time the golf course showed a profit? But the taxpayers still support that golf course because it's good for the city, isn't it? And it's going to be good for the city in the future. And I feel the same way about the police department. We need to support our police officers. We need to have something we can be proud of, not a pole building to store squad cars. We don't need to cheapen it up. If we're going to do it, we need to do it right, don't we? It's a tradition of progress. I think we need to continue that tradition and move forward with this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jay Pexa, I think?
My name is Jay Pex. I live at 303 Fiddler Court in town. I've spent the greater part of 35 years building Class A buildings, which we're obviously wanting to put up. It is the Taj Mahal. I've never heard of anybody building a $10.5 million building for 4 people to be in. There isn't, what, 4 or 5, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I thought there was 4 or 5 that are going to be in there all day, every day. This building could be a third of what it is, and still the lights will come on, the doors will go on, people can do whatever, but $12 million? I built doctors' clinics and offices and school buildings and didn't put this kind of money into a building. It's fine if we're going to need it somewhere down the future to put it together, and if this building has to go with it, why don't we just wait till this all has to happen? I've always told my family, I said, it's not about we won't be able to afford our house in this town, because that'll go away. The payment will go away. What we won't be able to afford are the taxes, because you don't stop. You continually add. This will be on everybody's tax payment the rest of their natural life and then some. It can be reduced. Give me that plan. I'll value engineer that building, and the lights will still come on, and everybody will have what they want. But you have to listen to what we're saying. Nobody's seen the plan. And I know you had said that we can go here, there. I don't do social media. I don't do it. I don't get anything. But it should have been sent out a long time ago when this started to the people of our age. And I live in a whole neighborhood of people like this. They have no more money to give us. They have no more money to give you. And nobody seems to take that into consideration. There's probably, what, 35, 40% of the population in this town is retired. Go to church. Go to Etlin's. Go to the Fishtail. There's a lot of retired people in this town, and they're living on fixed incomes. You're digging up streets. Those people are going to get $16,000 or whatever added to theirs, plus the taxes are going up 10% next year for whatever happened there. And now we're going to throw another large percent of this for, again, the rest of our natural lives. You people have to look at this. I think of everybody in this town, every business in this town is going to have to raise their price to the point where we won't be able to go out for dinner. We won't be able to go uptown and have a beer. It's all going to have to be really, really looked at how we're going to spend the few bucks that we're going to have. And I live in a neighborhood of all of them, and they're very concerned about this. There's something we can do about this. Like I said, I'll value engineer that building for you, And it won't be anywhere near $10 million, but the lights will still come on. Thank you.
Thank you. Austin?
Austin Revel, 222 Second Avenue Southwest. I'm one of the business owners here in town, and I'm here to support this. Full disclosure, obviously I have a personal connection to this. My wife is a police officer here in town. And, to me, one of the things that I value most is having the symbolism of what we value. When you walk into someone's home, you can see what they value, right, by what they have on the walls, the things they highlight. And police stations are one of those symbols. We saw what happens just 5 years ago when you let one burn, right? Let's show what we value in this town. We have an awesome fire station. I think it looks amazing. It's time that we value the police department in the same way. I say that as a gun shop owner, noticing stuff getting closer and closer to home. It's getting a little uncomfortable when you see some of the things propping up in Jordan and Elko New Market. So let's make that symbol that we take this seriously. Another thing, too, that was obviously mentioned is female spaces. There should be some, and there is none currently. And then also as a gun shop owner, I am worried about rights. Fifth Amendment rights are very important, and there should be a space when you go in for an interview or have your lawyer come in and speak to you, because even suspects get those rights as well as they're afforded, and we should have that space. We don't currently have the facility to do so. I do believe that this is again, a tradition of progress, but it's also building for 20 years, 30 years, kind of like the water treatment plant. Let's get this done and just move on, because there's going to be other things we have to do. We put this off for far too long, and I think it's time we address it. Thank you.
Ethan Unger, did you want to speak?
Ethan Unger, 500 Highview Circle, and I am with Sean Ryan. I think we should take the architect and maybe find a different one that will trim it down, because I can barely afford my taxes the way they are on a fixed income with 4 people to feed every day. So I sharply oppose of it, but I support the officers.
Thank you. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Danielle Peterson, address 1101 Water Street, Northwest, Scott County. I'd like to say I'm in favor for the new cop shop. If they can trim the fat, or we need to, watch out for taxes for everyone, fixed income or whatever. My dad was a cop. They put in a new cop shop way later, but it benefited the city. And I think this town does need something for, every detective personnel, male, female. And I think, traditional progress, just got to move forward. So I'm in favor for the new business here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
Good evening. My name's Todd Klein. I'm at 1402 10th Street Circle Southeast. First off, I'd like to kind of give a background on myself. I am a commercial painting contractor, so I am in the commercial industry as far as buildings go. And I kind of have a background on estimating, project management, and $10.4 million. I just got done with Scott Equipment for KA Wet in town here, and that building has an occupancy of, I believe it's 40. And I could be wrong. I'm just throwing out a number here. But I believe that went for under $3 million, that building. And I believe that was with land as well. So my opinion on the value of $10.4 million in comparison to that building kind of makes my head spin a little bit on where that dollar value came from and why it's up to $10.4 million. I too would like to look at a set of plans as far as what this police station actually is in detail. What has elevated that cost? Again, I would love to look at that. And I'm not about value engineering. I do value engineering in my business. And a lot of times it's saving 10 to 20% on a building or a facility. I believe that this station, value engineering doesn't mean that it takes a luster out of a project. What it does is it makes it feasible. It makes it very compliant with what is needed. And I think that a few people tonight have spoken on the fact that a tradition of progress, I believe in that as well. But it can be done at a value too. My other concern with this project is future ramifications with it. I know the school is looking into more funding, and I believe this passing is going to have a direct reflect on people's opinions on that as far as moving forward with that. I'm just wondering, where's the balancing act coming from? How is that going to play out? I believe that the future is in the schools. I think everybody would probably agree upon that. I also think that the future is in protecting and serving the public. Again, there's a balancing act between the two of them. So that being said, I strongly oppose this police station. I believe that there's some value that can be made that would make it agreeable in this community and not cheapen it up. It can be value engineered and everybody can get kind of what they want. That's all I have tonight, people.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Vince Maloney, 506 7th Street Northeast. I am on a fixed income. You just gotta cut back. I mean, stuff is gonna go up in price. It has our whole lives. No, I can't go downtown and drink a beer out of the bar.
Vince, you can speak to us.
I'm sorry.
You can speak to us.
Okay. So I'm in favor of the police station, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? With no other people in the audience signaling a desire to give comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the CIP plan and the issuance of the general obligation bonds relevant to resolution.
Point of order. Did you want to check just to make sure there was no one online?
I'm sorry. No one online? With no other people in the audience or online signaling a desire to give comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the CIP plan and the issuance of the general obligations bonds relevant to resolution 25060202, approving a capital improvement plan and giving preliminary approval to the issuance of capital improvement plan bonds, and resolution 25-060203, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation capital improvement plan bonds, series 2025A, in the maximum aggregate amount of $10,415,000.
So moved.
Well, this is just closing the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right, second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Public hearing is now closed.
I have some more questions.
Yes, do you have a question, Sean?
Yes, several. So, I believe that that there's gonna be a group of people that will find the required 240, whatever it was, 220 signatures to force a referendum vote. I think it's important for the council to recognize that, and then the fact that we are one person short now, that we should tamp the brakes a little bit, and slow this process down, because if we continue to spend more money or allow the contractor to spend more money. It not only goes against the will of what I believe is the majority of the residents of New Prague, but it's going to force the hand of this council in such a way that they're not going to be able to backtrack from it if we don't invoke the clause right now that stops. To Brian's point, they've already started working. I don't blame the contractor that might be looking that this thing might not go through. But I would like to get a total of what we're looking at right now, Josh, with what has been done, that theoretically that we cannot get back if we stop this. The plans that we paid for are the plans. We could build this 5 years from now with those plans if we so move or wanted to. We own those plans. So if anything, we've saved the money on the engineering fees. That doesn't mean we necessarily have to do it. Or we could look at ways of them possibly redoing it at a cheaper rate. But what are we at right now, to your best?
So that if that is certainly something the council wishes to do, I can reach out. I know as they've been ordering stuff, I'm sure there's been costs they've already incurred. So I do not know that exact number of what's been spent to this point. Usually our first invoice, I'm guessing, would roll in here either mid to late month in June is usually how those work.
Has the contractor been communicated to as far as the fact that this could go either way?
The contractor has been communicated with, that the council voted to approve the contract. Because since that is where we currently stand. I have
Back
not
in
been
April.
given direction by the council to do anything else.
Okay, but we did acknowledge at the last meeting 2 weeks ago that it's very likely that this will be put to a referendum vote, and that it could very well easily fail if we let the taxpayers have their say in it. Does that not mean that we should contact the contractor and tell him to stop and put it on hold before we spend any more money?
I guess I take direction from the council as a whole, and they have not.
Well, then I'm asking that question to the council.
Well, I can respond, my opinion on it. The exact same questions you're asking, we talked about last meeting. And the attorney reviewed what the circumstances would be if you tried to get out of the signed contract, and not only the liability part of it, but the actual cost then of breaking the contract, in addition to the money that's already been spent for a contract that was approved earlier. So I'm not sure the issues that you're bringing up now are any different than were discussed the last time.
There was no dollar figure, though, that was actually given, and then there is some, according to the way I read the contract, and I'm not aware if Scott did read our contract before that. I think he was referring almost in general to what could happen. But from what I saw in the contract, it does look like there is an out or a clause that we can change or stop. I don't have it exactly with me.
There is an out clause, and it would be, to my understanding, the expenses to date. But then there is a big unknown, because Metcon may have turned down other business to take this contract that we put out for RFP. So there is some unknown dollar amount that they could then demand, and it would probably involve our city attorney likewise to kind of wade through that bit of unknown. And Josh, that's my understanding on the out clause.
That is my understanding as well.
Thank you.
Oh, unfortunately, I can't read it here, but.
I'll give you a minute if you want to respond, Sean.
Yeah, I would actually. I'll just, this is the highlighted part of what Well, maybe this isn't the contract.
Councilmember Ryan, I have it right here.
You do? Thank you.
Sean, please address Josh. It's not appropriate for you to stand up.
Are we looking for contract language? Is that what's being looked at? right
Yeah.
now? Yeah, I've
Yes,
got it
I'd like
right
to
here
see
in
that,
front
and
of
I
me.
think that is within my right as a council elected official to see that.
No, yeah,
I'm
would
not
you?
saying it's not, Sean. I'm
Okay.
just saying it's appropriate for us to, if you're talking to us, then you should involve the city administrator and us.
Okay. I would like to see.
Would you
that
like to read the language?
Yes. Thank you. I don't know if you have the portion that I would want highlighted. Okay. The contract may be terminated by the owner or the contractor as provided in Article 14. If the contract is terminated for the owner's convenience in accord with Article 14, then the owner shall pay the contractor termination fee as follows. Insert the amount of or method of determining the fee, if any, payable to the contractor following termination for the owner's convenience. In case such termination of the owner's convenience, the contractor shall be entitled to receive payment for work executed and reasonable and substantiated costs incurred by reasons for such termination, which is the dollars I'd like to know what that would be before any more additional work is done. That's it. The next one
Is
is
there
Article
more?
8.
Is there more for
Miscellaneous
the termination?
provisions. I just read the termination,
Yeah.
section 7.
So that Article 7.1.1 is that if the city terminates for convenience, then the termination fee, there's a termination fee as follows. Work executed and reasonable and substantiated costs incurred by reason of such termination. So there is that, still that unknown, reasonable and substantiated costs incurred for that termination. So that cost could be the cost of business that Metcon lost because they took our bid and we awarded the contract. So
Well, I
just
think
wondered-
I think that's where we need our city attorney to find out if that's what that dollar figure could possibly be.
Yeah, it's open to interpretation.
It isn't open,
You
and that's
know.
why that's just some additional information. But at the very least, I think it should be communicated to the contractor that, hey, we're in this situation that very well could happen, and that we want to pause any or all work right now, so we're not incurring any more fees if he starts digging a hole or doing whatever, because the plans are there, if that isn't communicated to him via that clause. So again, with us being down one member and with a lot of unknowns out there, and a very good possibility that they will gather the number of signatures that are required to hold a referendum and then needs to be approved, I think we're putting ourselves in a very dangerous position if we allow the contractor to continue working. My next question would be,
Sean, let me just respond to your first question because I didn't get a chance to finish
okay,
what I was saying, but I'm being totally transparent. My motivation and support of the resolution and the bond, the statute that we're using for the bond, and Brian, you might just say we're just kind of, I forgot the words you're using, but I feel that this is the best way to do it, an appropriate financing bond mechanism to do it. And I believe there's a little bit of a cost savings in going this route than the next alternative that we would try doing. And I'm not kidding myself that, and I've done levies myself for the city before, and what the chances of a referendum approvals are, no matter what the circumstances. But I'm not kidding anybody that if there was a signature for a reverse referendum, I would support going the next alternative for bonding. We have done a lot of time and study to get to this point, and I'm not going to suggest, I would not support incurring the liability to the city from not funding it once we've already decided to do the project and there was due diligence in earnest and sincerely to do it. So I'm not kidding anybody. If we do get a reverse referendum, I would support that we go to the next step and still fund it in whatever way we can, instead of trying to legally get out of what the contract and what the cost of that might be. Nevertheless, it's also, a lot of people you're suggesting don't support it, but there certainly are people that do support it too. So I have to take in consideration both sides of it, as well as we all have to. So that's my response to your earlier question. And you said you had something else that you want to add?
Well,
Mayor, members of the council, if I may, I just want to interject. So I'm not your normal city attorney. My name's Sam Ketchum. I work with Scott Riggs, and I wasn't familiar with the contract you were referring to until now. I can tell you that it sounds like City Attorney Riggs basically provided an opinion at your previous meeting that the termination fee and the amount of that would be unknown. And the language that you just read, I would have the same exact opinion. So that language and the amount of the termination fee that would be basically that the city would be liable for is an unknown. And so you're going to have to decide, I think tonight, what you're going to do with these resolutions with that being an unknown. So I just wanted to throw that out there because that is a part of the discussion. And but ultimately, I have the same opinion that Scott did at the previous meeting, that your liability, your costs, for the exit clause, that's an unknown, and you're going to have to proceed with these two resolutions with that being an unknown. You're going to have to make a decision about them without that information.
but wouldn't you agree that it's only gonna go up if work starts in earnest? And then we ultimately decide that,
I can't say for sure because we don't know what your contractor is gonna say in terms of what their expenses, their reasonable and substantiated costs are gonna be. So it really depends on the contractor and when that would occur.
okay. So, several questions. How many days do they have to gather the required signatures?
The reverse referendum period is 30 days from approval of the resolutions,
Which would be from today?
assuming they were approved tonight, correct?
Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear for the people that are against it. And then, just to comment on Bruce's, I know, Bruce, you believe that this was done with all sincerity and due diligence. I take a different approach from it. This thing got brought up. I know we did the facility study. There was a lot of other things in the facility study that needed. We haven't added police officers since that facility was done. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there was much more detail to that facility study than just the police station. And once this all of a sudden popped up last fall, even though there were some reservations amongst the people at this table that price was really high and we asked to skinny it down, my belief is that city staff continued to take the next steps and they never really slowed down. And it just seemed like it just went through and through and through. And I was always the one no vote, but everybody else, there was like no, as we saw, after we asked them to skinny it down, it came back with the exact same price. So this, in my mind, this thing has happened like in the last 9 months for sure. And to spend this kind of money, I think without the public's input, which we know now was a mistake, was wrong. And that it moved way too quickly, way too fast on a project of this size and scope. That's my personal feeling. I know you disagree with that, and I respect that, but.
Well, this is technical, but just point of clarification, we did approve the council additional police officer that started in a memorandum in October 2022, and this project started before that.
Okay. That was all I had on the 30 days.
We have more opportunity. Next item then is consideration of resolution 25060202.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25060202, approving a capital improvement plan and giving preliminary approval to the issuance of capital improvement plan bonds.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? I just have a couple comments then to support the resolution. Just referring back to the need, I was responding to a resident that inquired to me directly about it, and my response as part of the answer was the need was focused on the deteriorating condition of the building in some places, lack of handicapped accessibility, proper secure storage, space for new officers, private interview space, security issues, among other issues. And this was just as important to me as consideration of the future growth of the community, which has taken place. The department has been operating in the same space for over 40 years, and part of the space is a converted garage, and it still is a garage. Looks like a garage. So it's not just the growth of the community either. The activity of our community has changed, and I think that we've always probably tried to have prevention as part of our efforts, but I think that's probably more of a focus in the last few years, what we want to do and prevent. It's not just the growth of the community that we're talking about as far as homeowners and people that live here, but actually new businesses, Coburn's, Hy-Vee, and a lot of other commercial and industrial, they expect the police service and ask for that service as well. Years ago, someone asked me about Quick Trip. Why do we need a Quick Trip, and why do we need another Quick Trip? And why can't we get an Aldi's, or I think they wanted Baker Square at the time or something. But my response was, and being involved in EDA for many years, it's not the size of the community also that really dictates what people want to do, but the traffic flow. And New Prague has experienced much more traffic flow and in some ways become a destination spot as far as major grocers as an example, but also in religious things as well. So our traffic counts certainly have grown up or increased. And that is also affecting the need for police and the number of police officers we have in the facilities. And that is a short answer. One of the reasons why Quick Trip is willing to invest millions of dollars in our community. Some mention about saving dollars in doing it later. We've had this discussion in the past as a city council when we talked about this. There's certainly efforts right now to reduce inflation. Federal Reserve would like to get it down, but there's no efforts to get deflation. There's no efforts to reduce the price. Inflation, we talk about disinflation, where the increase of prices slows down to get down to 2%. But once you get inflation, you have a price level. It's not going to go down. You just slowed the increase of it. So in my mind, there's no way it's going to be cheaper 2 years from now, or a year from now, or 3 years from now. People have coined, it wasn't just tonight, but Taj Mahal's been used. I don't view this as a Taj Mahal. I think we did cut it back. We did skinny it down a little bit. It was not as much as you wanted or I wanted either at the time. I remember us talking about it. I resolved to accept what was done, and you feel it could have gone down lower. I've been involved in commercial building projects as well, and you can value engineer as well, and that's a possible way. I haven't seen it done in a city situation. There's different risks involved in that too, is not knowing your exact numbers. School balancing with the school is a very, I sincerely as saddened that this might affect that. I totally get it. I have to wear my hat as a city council when I view this. I obviously have a personal stake in it too, with my family being involved as employed at the school district, so that affects me too. We did talk about that in the past as a council. I understand the terminology of tap it, slow it down, but I do have to go back to the comment that we started this back in 2021, and the facility needs were even considered before I got here, before then. And I don't think about this as a 9-month project that would really diminish all the efforts that were done in 22, 23, and 24 throughout this whole process. During the last election, other elections, and currently you see signs, I've seen signs that say support police, or we support our law enforcement, or we stand up for law enforcement. And I wondered myself, what does that all mean to someone when they post a sign? It certainly conveys support to them, but what is it physically, what does it mean to you? In the last 2 to 3 years, when I've talked to people and people asked me about it, and there's been as many as are in this room or more, I would say the consensus that I've received is that I don't like paying taxes. I don't want my taxes to go up, but if we need it, I want to do it. I think we should do it. And that's generally what was a nice way of really defining, for me anyway, what it means to support the police and what we mean to support law enforcement. So I state this in support of the resolution. Any other comments?
I just want to say that in no way does this, anybody that's against this $10.5 million police station is saying they're not for the police. They're not against, they're not anti-cop by any means whatsoever. There just needs to be some fiscal, what I believe, fiscal responsibility in a lot of other people too. That does not, I just want to make sure everybody understands this is not, we're not saying that we're anti-police or anti-cop because we can't afford, or in some people's minds, afford an $11 million police station.
I didn't mean to infer that, but I was trying to relate what I understood these people were telling me, and part of what they were saying, that they were willing to have their taxes to pay for it in a way to show their support. And that's the feeling that I received from them. That's my personal opinion. That's my inference that I received from those people.
Josh, could you remind me what this is gonna just baseline add to our levy, just off the top, just this, before
Yep.
we've done anything else? Which,
So, I believe, and we admittedly, the last time we ran these numbers, it was using estimates, or it was based off of our 2025 levy, so it will change a little bit. Next year would increase tax capacity, but it would roughly increase the levy somewhere between 12 and 15%, depending on where that tax capacity is at. Now, that is the general levy. That doesn't necessarily mean an individual person's taxes will go up. That is the overall levy amount.
and that's without compensation studies and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of things still coming in our budget.
There's a number of things that have already been budgeted for 25, yes. We haven't begun to discuss what would be, this would ultimately be the 2027 budget that this would first take effect.
Okay, thank you for that. I think it was important that people heard that.
No public input.
9 months.
Shame on you.
Come to a meeting once in a while.
Any other comments or questions? This is the resolution, 2506-0202. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I voted aye as well. Next item is resolution 2506-0203.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2506-0203, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation capital improvement plan bonds, Series 2025A, in the maximum of aggregate principal amount of $10,415,000.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions? I do want to respond because I do apologize if you feel you haven't been involved, but I do have to also respect the people that have been engaged for the last 2 or 3 years and have voiced their concerns or their support, or as Sean's very well aware, the people that are against it. So I do want to acknowledge all the people and thank those people that have been involved for the last 3 years in it. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Next item is city engineering projects update.
I don't have anything to add unless you guys have questions about the memo.
If you give me a second, I'll get to the memo.
Yep. I can give a recap of it. 2024 project, today you will see a lot of milling going on out there.
30 days.
They're preparing for the second lift that will take place this week, weather permitting. There are still items on the punch list that need to be completed, but I would say they're 90% done with their punch list. 2025 project, the Lincoln Avenue North, utility work is completed. Now they will start building a street. The first 2 blocks are done, so they have from 2nd to 5th Street to complete, which would be tile, sand, gravel, and then obviously the curb. I guess, yeah, if you guys have any questions, I can answer. It's hard to hear back here, sorry.
Any comments on it, Josh, or anyone else?
Nope.
Agenda item number 8, ordinance for adoption. Josh, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, this is the second reading of the updating our THC ordinance. I will let Ken let you know if he has any updates. Otherwise, I know he stands for questions.
Yeah, I don't have any update on that, but we did publish on our bulletin board and on the website as required by law for 10 days prior to tonight's consideration and following the initial reading at the last council meeting. Again, as a reminder, it was just to allow a exclusive liquor store to sell low potency hemp products, which in our ordinance called THC does not include the higher potency items, which the state still at this point does not have the complete process open and available for issuing licenses. So again, low potency at municipal, or exclusive liquor stores. So just clarifying that, because when we adopted the ordinance initially, it was not allowed.
Just the liquor stores?
This is just for liquor stores.
And this isn't gonna be passed and then for one particular store, it's for the.
No,
all
it'd be
of it.
for all of them.
What is the action, or are we requiring any action tonight on this?
Yes, so it would be approving on second reading, which would be approval for adoption of that change.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
Correct.
So moved.
I'll second the adoption of amending ordinance number 356, sections 121.02 and 121.03 of chapter 121.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other questions or discussions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Item number 9, resolutions 25060204. Josh, do you want to introduce the item?
Yes, resolution 25060204 is declaring a vacancy to exist in the office of the mayor and providing for the appointment thereof. Just as a quick recap, Mayor Dwayne Jurek did resign his post here about a week and a half ago Thursday. And so per our city charter, section 2.05, the city council shall basically declare the post vacant and then shall look to appoint somebody into that role. Due to the office being open for less than 2 years, it would be, the charter provides for the appointment of the position by the city council, not a special election for that seat. And so I provided 2 resolutions for you. Resolution 25060204A basically says that the seat is vacant and the city council will look, where's that? And the city council will look to find a replacement. We can certainly discuss how we could go about finding that. 25060204B would be the option if the city council knows who it would like to appoint, and we can certainly do that tonight as well. Speaking with City Attorney Scott Riggs, I worked with him to put both of these resolutions together to kind of give the city council an option of just kind of how I'd like to proceed here. According to our city charter, this is certainly up to the discretion of the city council as to how the appointment is filled. So I can try to answer any questions you may have, and I'm sure Sam here can help me as well if we have questions, so.
So if we were just to move the vice president into the mayor position, if he wants it, I'm not trying to imply anything, Bruce, but I think then we would, could we then interview for, or would we have to interview for Bruce's position as?
Yes, so if for some reason any city council member was basically appointed in the position, the city council then would be tasked with appointing a person to fill that seat until, and then this is where it gets a little bit dicey. So if it was, in this particular instance, if it was Councilwoman Bass or Councilman Seiler, they have also a year and a half left. So we would appoint somebody into that position to fulfill the remainder of their term. If it was yourself, Sean, or Councilman Wolf, then the city council would appoint somebody into that seat until a special election was held to permanently put somebody in there. Speaking with Scott Riggs, that can either happen basically at the next November, or most cities will many times wait until the next general city election. So it would be appointing somebody for a year and a half, and then a special election would be run for a 2-year term to fill that seat for the remainder of the 2-year term. Either way, yes. To answer your question, a city council member could be appointed in the position, and then we'd be looking to appoint somebody into that city council member position.
And the vice president should take the position, but I could see you don't wanna be mayor forever, I mean.
So I mean, I guess the city charter does not say that the person should. It says that the vice president will act as the mayor when the mayor is not available. So in this instance, because we do not have an available mayor, the acting vice president will run the meetings. And then yes, should that person be appointed or want it, they say they can certainly have it, but they don't have to have it. It could come from any city council member, or it could come from without, is it without the right word? Outside of the city council.
So I think the first, first is that we declare the vacancy.
That is correct.
Of
Yeah,
the
so
seat. So I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25060204A, declaring the vacancy to exist in the office of mayor and providing for the appointment thereof.
Second.
Mayor, members of the council, I just have a quick clarification. So both of these resolutions actually declare the vacancy, so it's either or, not one and then two.
Thank you.
If I'm wrong.
nope, that's right, yeah. So we set this up so that A would declare the vacancy and then allow the council to discuss how it wants to fill and go forward. B would declare the vacancy, and if the council has somebody in mind that they would like to reach out to appoint, that's what you would use B for if there's already a person who you'd want to put in there already. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but I don't know that we've had any discussion about who that person may be, so I don't know if we pass the resolution 05. It's 05 on the agenda, but it's 04B, so.
Mayor, members of the council, I think this might help understand the two resolutions. So both declare the vacancy. One basically directs staff to provide a process for filling the vacancy by appointment. The second, 04B, basically just has a blank. So if you know who you want to appoint as to serve the remainder of the unexpired term, you would adopt 04B with a specific name. So just to be clear, both declare vacancy. They're essentially the same resolution, but 104A directs the staff to fill that by appointment and bring someone back for the council's consideration, but 04B basically appoints a specific person.
Yeah, and I think that discussion would just happen tonight before you approved it. So if somebody up there knew who we wanted to put in there, then we would just move forward with B. If we didn't know after discussion, we'd move forward with A.
Thank you.
I do have a question. If we were to pick somebody outside of the council, so we don't mess up our terms and all that stuff, somebody like Nikolai or, you know, or somebody past government mayor,
Yeah, that's.
is that what you're talking?
Yeah, so if the council came forward, and decided we're just gonna stretch this way back instead of using names, George Washington, we wanted to appoint George Washington as our mayor, they would use B to declare the vacancy and appoint George Washington. We would then reach out to George Washington and see if George Washington wanted to be mayor. Assuming they did, they would, that person would then come back, be sworn in as the mayor, and we'd move forward. If they didn't want to, we'd be back to square A. The vacancy's already declared, we just wouldn't have a mayor, so we'd be almost defaulting to A at that point and coming up with a process for how we will fill the mayor's seat.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to see the vice president take the mayor position if you'd like to, and then I'd like to open it up to the public and do a series of interviews for people that would want to fulfill his council seat until the next election. If, Bruce, are you interested in it? Or I don't know if you even are, but.
My position would be, I would only have an interest if we couldn't find someone that, I do feel that there's a qualified person, at least one, that would do it, and I would recommend Chuck Nicolai to do it since he was our previous mayor. As someone that we could discuss and do it, and if there weren't, then I would consider it, but my preference would not, to take advantage of someone that can provide some consistency and not, and maintain, that's been here before and knows the people here, I think.
Yeah, I'm fine with Chuck. Did
I'm fine
anybody
too.
talk to you yet, Chuck?
You want the job or what?
Would you do it?
Pardon?
Would you do it for us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I will take that motion off the table of approving Resolution 25060204A and instead make a motion to approve Resolution 25060204B, declaring the vacancy and providing for the appointment thereof.
Chuck Nicolai. I'd second that.
And then, or I guess I'll ask our attorney this, is this effective immediately, or is there a time frame, or do we expect him to jump up here and?
I actually went through this with another city recently, and I didn't think that they'd maybe need to jump up. I think it takes effect immediately, but I don't think that the new mayor needs to jump up right now and run the meeting, if that's what you mean.
He's gotta be sworn in though. too.
That's
we,
correct, thank you. Yeah,
Should we change the resolution to be effective the next city council meeting?
The resolution is fine as in front of you. As one of the council members pointed out, the mayor will need to be sworn in. So that'll likely occur at the next meeting.
Oh, I see, okay.
And at that time, the mayor will take the.
Pomp and circumstance can start then. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I believe there's a motion on the floor and seconded, correct?
Yes.
For 25060204B with the insertion of Chuck Nicolai as being appointed to serve the remainder of the unexpired term of Mayor Dwayne J. Jurick. Any comments or further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Just when you thought you were out, you got pulled back in.
I actually told you that was gonna happen.
Did you guys ask him beforehand?
No.
I thought he was here for the,
I didn't ask him to come. He came under.
No, I think it's great. I'm happy.
Come in wearing a derby and say, all right, I'll take that seat.
Next item is Resolution 25060205, approving variance. Josh, do you want to introduce this item? Or Ken?
Oh, yes, I'll pass this one off to Ken. I know we've been short planning staff here now for almost a week, and so he's been back at work on the solar department, so.
I'll give you a very brief overview on the variance. V3 2025 for a 6-foot tall fence at 1108 Olivia Street. The applicant, Justin Novak, requested this request here. All the homes along Olivia Street that abut County Road 29 typically have a very close distance from both the county road and then the trail that abuts all of those lots. So they're typically looking for privacy. In the case of Mr. Novak, he is looking for containing their dog, buffering some noise from the roadway, and then enhancing security for his lot in general. The ordinance does not allow a 6-foot tall fence within 30 feet of the rear property line, which should be in this case immediately to the north of the trail and County Road 29. Several fences in the neighborhood have been given variances for the same issue, including the house directly to the east of the applicant's home. And at the May 28th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission did recommend a 4-0 vote to recommend that the council approve the variance request. Here's a little map showing it's one of the many homes in the Tukalski Acres development that abuts County Road 29 and the trail. We'll zoom in here a little bit to the plat. If our 30-foot normal setback applied, the area in orange is what would be off limits to anything more than a 4-foot tall fence. So it'd be a very, very small backyard that they could have with the full 6-foot height. And that is what they're seeking to match their neighbor to the east. And this is not the exact home to the east, but is that same vinyl panel type fence that they're looking to install that the neighbors already have installed in their property directly next door. So the yellow line indicates where they're gonna propose to put the fence up. Everything meets the ordinance for placement setbacks other than the height within 30 feet of that rear property line. A couple pictures of the home from the front and the rear. You can see the white 6-foot tall privacy fence to the home on the east there. This one will be kind of an extension of that. They will not connect directly to that fence, but it will look very similar to that and be directly adjacent to it with a little space in between for maintenance purposes. Just a couple other views here showing how close the trail is and some of the landscaping that they do have out there. So again, staff and the Planning Commission recommend approval of the variance V3 2025 with the findings contained in the resolution, which is in front of the council tonight for consideration. Thank you.
Council members, do you have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25060205, approving variance V3 2025 to allow a 6-foot tall fence at 1108 Olivia Street Southeast, as proposed by Justin Novak.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10, general business. A, request for purchase equipment. Josh, do you introduce?
Yes, I will pass this off to Chief Rinda. Next 2 items, actually, so.
Thank you.
So the first item is, we fundraised, some money to buy a F-150 pickup, and we're looking for a little help to equip it. The total cost for the equipment is $16,000. Looking to use $8,000 out of the Public Safety Fund grant money that was given to the city 2 years ago, and the rural would pick up the other $8,000, which they approved already.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request to purchase the F-150 pickup truck.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any other questions or comments?
I think the motion is not to the approval of the pickup, but for the assistance for the equipment.
Lights and
Correct,
sirens.
correct. Just the $8,000 for
Okay,
the,
I'll amend my motion then.
if you want to buy the truck, you sure can.
No, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
I'll amend my motion. We'd like, I'm gonna make a motion that, the city, helps with the public safety funds that the city received last year, in the amount of $8,000 for equipment for the, additional equipment, that the F-150 pickup truck
I'll
needs.
second.
You've been out second, Rick.
Yep.
Any other?
I seconded her, but that's fine.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, it's a different motion. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion pass. Steve? Pension fund.
So the second item in front of you is a request to increase our pension from $4,150 per year of service to $5,000 per year of service. You'll see attached in your packet essentially where the fund is at today, what projections are with the fund, and showing that the fund can support this increase. Essentially, the fund would have to lose about 25% before the city or the rural would have to kick into the fund to balance it out. So we feel that this is very much a conservative approach, but I mean, it is a healthy benefit increase, but the fund can support such increase, so that's why we're asking for it.
And it had been 3 years since the last one, right? Is that-
I believe it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
Again, I would not be here if the fund could not support an increase. If I wouldn't be here if I was asking for you guys to kick in, but the fund can support an increase and it gives quite the cushion before any type of, the fund would have to take quite the negative balance before anybody from the rural or the city would have to kick in any money.
And it really isn't, I think it's only, if I remember right, 3 years ago, this is only $100 more than what it was. I think it was $750 that last jump that we took, wasn't it?
It could have been. I don't remember. I think it was $37.50 to $41.50.
Oh, was it that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
To date, the fund is down less than 1% from the start of the year to the end of April. I don't have the end of May numbers, but so less than 1% from January 1 till now.
Which has been pretty volatile, and so 1%.
Correct. Yeah, this fund can only, I mean, it's mandated by the state on what we can be in, so it's not in a very aggressive portfolio. You'll see on the last page, I believe it is, that's a projection sheet. With the fund, you'll see on the middle column is 2025. You'll see with it, the benefit level changing to $5,000 per year of service. And then we used a minus 5% rate of return. We still show a quite a healthy positive balance compared to our liabilities.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the retirement benefit moving from $4,150 to $5,000 per year of service.
Of note, is that effective immediately? I would recommend yes.
Effective
Yeah, that's a really
immediately,
good-
yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion pass. Josh, introduce you to the next item.
Yes, open park board seat. So at the last council meeting, the city council did select candidates for the open board positions. All of the boards had at least one applicant for the open positions, except for the park board, which did not have any. This did also we had one board, which was the planning commission, that had 3 applicants. So in the past, when this has happened, the city council has had the decision about whether to offer the open seat, if there are any, to any of the unselected candidates. And after the meeting, Brian Paulson, who was an applicant for the planning commission, did reach out and express interest in the open park board seat. So I guess the question is, would the council like to offer it to him as a candidate? And then if so, would they like to re-interview Mr. Paulson for that, since he last interviewed for a planning commission seat? I guess it would be my recommendation, knowing that it's sometimes difficult to find willing and able volunteers for city boards and commissions, I would recommend the city council do consider Mr. Paulson as a viable candidate. And I guess I would also recommend moving forward without a second interview, because much of the conversations for boards and commissions centers around providing future guidance to the city council in making decisions, whatever that particular little sect may be. And so I guess I would make a recommendation that we, if he is certainly willing, that we do offer the open board position to Brian Paulson.
Are you willing? I'll make the motion to appoint, Brian, Paulson to, the, park board.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carry. Next item.
That is all the items. We were down to miscellaneous. It's meeting minutes for a couple golf board meetings, the planning commission and the utilities minutes, but there's nothing else for action on the agenda.
Miscellaneous items, then, members or staff. Rick, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Sean?
No, I don't believe so.
Maggie?
No, not this evening.
Josh?
Nothing else.
Guest attorney?
Lost my mic. Nothing else, thank you.
Ken?
I do not.
Nothing else.
Police chief?
I don't have anything.
Matt? I feel kind of offended no one has anything to talk about.
He did make a great mayor for a couple of minutes.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck Nicolai.